When your son plots to steal everything you've built, you don't fight back with anger, you fight back with truth. Glenn Myers spent 40 years building an empire. His son Trevor spent 1 week trying to steal it. But Glenn knows that betrayal, no matter how close to home, is best answered with precision, not rage. This is the story of a father who turned a family's darkest betrayal into a masterclass of calculated revenge, and made sure the only legacy that survived was built on integrity. The evening air was rich with barbecue smoke and the distant laughter of guests gathered in the backyard. As I stepped onto the brick walkway, the carefully wrapped gift under my arm felt heavier than it should have. Through the windows of my son's house, I noticed an unexpected number of people mingling, far more than a simple family dinner would require. Trevor appeared at the front door before I could knock. His expression a mix of genuine enthusiasm and something more guarded. "Dad, you made it, come in," he said, ushering me inside. The transformation of their modest home was startling. Where there had been simple furnishings, there were now expensive decorations. Crystal glasses, glinting beneath a chandelier I had never seen before. The kitchen overflowed with platters of food that looked professionally catered. I handed Trevor the gift, a set of quality tools chosen after much deliberation. 40 years, hard to believe, I said. Trevor's smile wavered, a fleeting moment of unease crossing his features. "Thanks, Dad. This means everything," he replied, though his grip on the box seemed tighter than necessary. Meredith's voice chimed from the kitchen as she floated into the room, adorned in a dress that likely cost more than my monthly pension. "Glenn, so wonderful you could make it. Let me introduce you to everyone." The living room was a sea of unfamiliar faces, young professionals with polished smiles discussing investments and career milestones. Premium alcohol brands sat atop the bar, brands Trevor could not possibly afford on his sales income. The atmosphere felt staged, every detail meticulously curated to project an image far removed from reality. "Grandpa," Molly's voice sliced through the manufactured ambience. She rushed to me, her embrace warm and genuine. "I'm so glad you came." Her eyes darted anxiously around the room, her grip on my arm tightening. "Grandpa, let's get out of here now." The urgency in her voice was chilling. "Why?" I asked, my heart quickening. "Just go, please," she whispered. Trusting her instinct, I followed her lead, weaving through clusters of guests who barely noticed our departure. As we reached the front door, Meredith's voice called after us, laced with performative concern. "Leaving so soon, Glenn? The party's just getting started." Molly's grip on my arm did not loosen until we were safely inside my car. Her hands trembled as she struggled to articulate her thoughts. "Grandpa, Dad is in serious trouble. This isn't just a party. It's a setup. He owes money to some dangerous people, and tonight was about cornering you into investing. They're not just guests, they're sharks." The weight of her words settled over me like a suffocating blanket. I had suspected Trevor's financial ventures were perilous, but this revelation shifted the stakes from poor judgment to criminal entanglement. Molly's fear was palpable, her usually composed demeanor unraveling under the pressure of imminent danger. "He planned this," she continued. "The decorations, the food, even Meredith's dress. It's all a facade to impress the syndicate. They think you're going to bankroll his next venture." I gripped the steering wheel, the rubber pressing into my palms as I processed the enormity of her confession. The dots connected with ruthless clarity. The sudden invitation after our confrontation, the over-the-top arrangements, the calculated charm offensive. Trevor was desperate, ensnared in a web of deceit that now threatened to pull me in. "Grandpa, we have to leave now." Molly's voice was barely a whisper, yet it carried the weight of undeniable truth. I started the engine, reversing slowly as the house loomed in the rearview mirror. Meredith stood at the doorway, her smile brittle, a mask that no longer concealed her true intentions. Trevor's silhouette appeared behind her, his posture rigid, arms crossed as we turned the corner onto Maple Street. A mixture of relief and dread coursed through me. The escape had been narrow, but the storm was far from over. Trevor's descent into desperation had reached a point where familial bonds were expendable, collateral damage in his pursuit of financial salvation. Molly sat in silence, her gaze fixed out the window, processing the betrayal of a father she still loved. I reached over, squeezing her hand gently. "We'll figure this out, Molly, we always do." But deep down I knew that this time was different. This time Trevor's recklessness had crossed a line, and the fallout would test every ounce of resilience. We had left as the evening sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the pavement. I understood that the battle had only just begun. Molly's warning had been the only thing standing between me and a trap meticulously laid by my son. As I sat in the back of a taxi, the evening shadows crossing my face, the realization gnawed at me. Trevor hadn't just made a poor decision. He had crossed a line into deliberate betrayal. The party had felt off from the moment I arrived. But Trevor's charm and Meredith's constant hospitality had blurred my instincts. The expensive wine, the over-the-top decorations, the way Trevor had kept checking his watch, it all seemed less benign now. Molly's sudden appearance beside me at the height of the party's warmth had been a jolt back to reality as the taxi carried me away. I dialed Molly. Her voice, fraught with urgency, confirmed everything I suspected. Trevor had planned to get me drunk, lure me upstairs under the guise of showing renovations, and have documents ready for me to sign. Documents that would transfer ownership of my company, my life's work, into his name. Molly had overheard Trevor and Meredith plotting. Their scheme relied on the assumption that enough alcohol and emotional manipulation would soften my defenses. They had even hidden lawyers upstairs, ready to finalize the transfer once my signature was on the dotted line. By the time I reached my house, the weight of their betrayal had settled into something cold and resolute. Mrs. Henderson, my neighbor for over 30 years, was waiting on her porch, as she often did in the evenings. Her quiet revelation that she had seen Trevor sabotaging my car tires days earlier provided the final damning piece of the puzzle. Trevor had launched a campaign against me, not out of desperation, but out of entitlement. He believed he was owed the fruits of my labor, and when I refused to hand them over willingly, he resorted to subterfuge and vandalism. But he had made a grave miscalculation. I spent that night at my kitchen table, coffee mug in hand, the legal pad before me filling quickly with names, dates, and strategies. Years of managing contracts, overseeing projects, and navigating corporate disputes had prepared me for conflict. Trevor wanted a war. He would get one at dawn. I retrieved the manila folders documenting Trevor's past failures. Every investment, scheme, every reckless decision, every scam he had fallen for was catalogued meticulously. I wasn't looking at them with a father's disappointment anymore. I was analyzing them as a strategist would study an opponent's weaknesses. Each failed venture had collateral damage: investors who had lost money because of Trevor's charm and my reputation. Marcus Thompson had lost $25,000 in the Miami condo project. David Rodriguez had invested $35,000 in Trevor's cryptocurrency scheme. Jennifer Walsh had contributed $20,000 to the ill-fated food truck business. These people had trusted Trevor. Because of me, what Trevor had forgotten was that these individuals were still part of my network. Marcus chaired the Chamber of Commerce. David was a prominent figure in the local investment group. Jennifer worked in financial services, with a reputation for integrity. They would not appreciate being used as pawns in Trevor's latest assault. Compiled their contact information, cross-referenced with mutual connections who could vouch for my credibility. This wasn't about revenge. This was about protecting my life's work and ensuring Trevor understood the consequences of his actions. Anonymous tips were powerful when delivered with precision. A well-timed call, an envelope with documented evidence, a conversation over coffee where facts are laid bare. These would be my opening moves. But this wasn't just a matter of tarnishing Trevor's reputation. He had involved lawyers, attempted to forge legal documents under intoxication, and committed property damage. This crossed into legal territory, and I needed allies. I called Marcus first. His voice, always steady, carried a note of surprise, but not disbelief as I laid out the events of the past few days. Marcus had invested in Trevor's Miami venture years ago and had lost a substantial amount. He had written it off as a bad decision but hadn't forgotten Glenn. "You should have called me sooner," he said. "Trevor's been sniffing around some of the newer members in the chamber, pitching investment opportunities again. I'll handle it." David Rodriguez was next. His anger was more immediate. His experience with Trevor's cryptocurrency disaster still a sore spot. "Send me the documentation, Glenn. I'll make sure everyone in our circle knows what's happening. We protect our own." Jennifer's response was colder, more calculated. "I can ensure his name gets flagged in the financial advisory community. No reputable firm will touch him once the truth is out." With my network mobilized, Trevor's avenues for financial manipulation would dry up quickly. But this was only the first phase. I contacted my attorney, Daniel Moore, a man who had seen me through countless business negotiations and disputes. He was methodical, discreet, and understood the nuances of both corporate and familial conflicts. "Daniel, I need to prepare for a potential legal battle," I began. I outlined Trevor's actions, from the tire sabotage to the attempted document forgery. Daniel listened without interruption. "We'll need to move carefully," Daniel advised. Document everything. From now on, every interaction with Trevor should be recorded. Any attempt he makes to contact you, any message he sends, save it. We'll build a case for both civil and criminal proceedings if necessary. The rest of the day passed in a blur of strategic calls and document organization. By evening, I had a comprehensive dossier on Trevor's ventures, a mobilized network ready to shield our business community from his schemes, and legal counsel preparing for the next steps. But, as night fell, I couldn't shake the personal ache beneath the strategic momentum. This was my son, the boy I had taught to ride a bike, who had once spent weekends helping me in the workshop. Now he saw me as an obstacle, a resource to exploit. Molly's call came just after dinner. "Grandpa, I think Dad knows I told you something. He's been acting strange, asking me questions in a way that doesn't feel right." "Stay calm, Molly. They won't suspect the full extent of what you know. But be cautious. If anything feels off, you call me immediately. I hate that it's come to this." "So do I, sweetheart, but some lessons have to be taught the hard way." As I ended the call, I realized the true nature of the battle ahead. This wasn't just a defense of my business. This was a fight for the soul of my family. Trevor needed to face consequences, not just to protect what I had built, but to give Molly a future untainted by his greed. The next phase would require precision, patience, and a heart steeled against the emotional wreckage. But I was ready. Had declared war. Now it was my move. The construction industry had taught me that reputation destruction required surgical precision, not emotional outbursts. Phase 1 would expose Trevor's pattern of financial mismanagement to his previous victims. Once they started comparing notes, the investment community would quickly understand they'd been systematically deceived. Phase 2 would target Meredith's professional relationships. Her expensive tastes suggested income sources beyond Trevor's struggling sales career, a woman that calculating had to have business vulnerabilities worth exploiting. Phase 3 would involve legal and financial consequences designed to cripple their ability to attempt future schemes against anyone. The beauty of this approach lies in its sustainability. I wouldn't need to maintain any deception or cover story. The evidence would speak for itself, and Trevor's victims would draw their conclusions about his character and business practices. I opened my laptop and created an anonymous email account specifically for this operation. Professional courier services. What could handle document delivery? Timing would be crucial. Friday afternoon deployment to ensure weekend processing time and Monday consequences. The phone rang, startling me from my planning. Trevor's name appeared on the caller ID. I let it ring. Whatever excuses or explanations he wanted to offer could wait. Right now, I have work to do. 1 o'clock Friday afternoon. My study resembled a war room. Investment documents lay arranged chronologically across my desk, organized by investor and loss amount. 3 large manila envelopes set ready for courier delivery, each containing enough documented evidence to destroy what remained of Trevor's financial credibility. The first package was addressed to Marcus Thompson, who'd lost $25,000 in Trevor's Miami condo scheme. Inside were photocopies of the original investment contract, bank transfer records, and email communications showing Trevor's awareness that the developer was facing bankruptcy proceedings even as he continued collecting investor money. The second envelope contained David Rodriguez's cryptocurrency catastrophe documentation, $35,000 invested in mining equipment that existed only in online advertisements. I'd included the email thread where Trevor admitted the supplier looked questionable but insisted the returns were too good to pass up. Jennifer Walsh's package detailed the food truck disaster, $20,000 invested in a business partnership with a convicted embezzler. The contract Trevor had signed included background check requirements that he deliberately ignored. Each envelope contained a simple cover letter, information for your consideration regarding Trevor Meyer's business practices. Please review the attached documentation and draw your conclusions. No accusations, no emotional appeals, just facts, dates, and financial records that spoke for themselves. I called Premier Courier Service and arranged same-day delivery to all 3 addresses. Anonymous delivery. The dispatcher confirmed. No problem. The packages left my house at 2:30 p.m. By evening, 3 of Luan's most connected business professionals would be reviewing documented evidence of Trevor's systematic deception of his investors. My phone rang again. Trevor's third attempt to reach me since last night. This time I answered. "Dad, thank God I've been trying to reach you since last night. I was busy, son. About yesterday. Why did you listen to Molly and leave? Did she tell you something?" "I was just tired. It's been a long week." "Listen, about yesterday, I'd like you to come over again. Meredith worked so hard on the party. She was disappointed when you couldn't stay." The casual lie rolled off his tongue with practiced ease. No mention of lawyers or signing papers. No acknowledgement of the trap I had escaped. The party was great, I said neutrally. Please thank Meredith for her hospitality. Of course. Hey, maybe we could have lunch next week. I've been thinking about our conversation on Tuesday night. I may have some new investment ideas that will solve your problems. Let me check my schedule and I'll call you back. Sure, Dad. Love you. Goodbye, Trevor. I hung up and checked the clock. 3:15 p.m. The packages had been in transit for 45 minutes. By 6 o'clock, 3 very influential people would be reading very detailed accounts of my son's business failures. Monday morning brought confirmation that my investor campaign had achieved its intended effect. The phone had rung 6 times before 8 o'clock. A.M. Business associates asking carefully worded questions about recent information regarding Trevor Myers' investment history. Word was spreading through Lewin's business community exactly as I'd planned. Phase 1, complete success. Time for phase 2. I settled into my study with fresh coffee and opened a new manila folder labeled Meredith Myers Professional Standing. If Trevor was the desperate gambler, Meredith was the calculating mastermind who'd orchestrated the birthday party trap. She deserved equal consequences. Meredith worked as a senior client relationship manager at Pinnacle Financial Consulting, handling high net worth accounts that required absolute trust and professional integrity. Her position depended entirely on her reputation for ethical behavior and sound judgment. Perfect vulnerability. I spent the morning making discreet inquiries through my business network. Construction companies often worked with financial consultants, giving me legitimate reasons to ask questions about local firms and their personnel. The information proved illuminating. Meredith had been seen frequently at the Marriott Lounge on weekday afternoons, always with the same well-dressed professional man. Multiple sources confirmed lengthy conversations over expensive wine during hours when she should have been serving clients. Her companion appeared to be a visiting executive from Portland, married, according to his wedding ring, but notably attentive to my daughter-in-law. More interesting was Meredith's spending pattern. Despite Trevor's claim of financial struggles, she'd been purchasing designer clothing, expensive jewelry, and luxury items well beyond their supposed means. Either Trevor had been lying about their finances, or Meredith had income sources he didn't know about. Both possibilities served my purposes. Drafted a professional ethics complaint to Pinnacle Financial's Human Resources Department, carefully documenting the conflict of interest between Meredith's role as a trusted financial advisor and her family's systematic attempt to defraud elderly clients through legal manipulation. The complaint highlighted how someone responsible for protecting clients' financial interests had personally participated in planning to steal my business. Through fraudulent legal documents and alcohol-induced incompetence her employer needed to know that Meredith Myers considered elderly clients' assets legitimate targets for family enrichment schemes. I included documentation of the birthday party expenses, catering, alcohol, and decorations that suggested financial resources inconsistent with the struggling family finances Meredith undoubtedly portrayed to colleagues and clients that were anonymous. Package went out Monday afternoon via professional courier, along with a note suggesting HR investigate Meredith's recent client interactions for possible conflicts of interest or inappropriate financial advice motivated by personal gain. Tuesday afternoon brought the sound I'd been expecting, car doors slamming in my driveway with unnecessary force, followed by rapid footsteps on my front walkway. Trevor and Meredith had come calling together, unified in their desperation. The aggressive knocking confirmed their emotional state before I opened the door. Both stood on my porch, faces flushed with anger and panic. Trevor's usual confidence had evaporated, replaced by the cornered animal look of a man facing complete ruin. Meredith's calculated composure had cracked, revealing the raw fury beneath her polished exterior. "We need to talk," Trevor said, pushing past me into the house. "Now we know what you've been doing, Glenn," Meredith added. Following her husband into my living room, I closed the door calmly and gestured toward the couch. "I've been expecting this conversation. Please, sit down. Don't pretend innocence," Trevor snapped, remaining standing. "You destroyed my business relationships with those anonymous letters. Marcus, David, and Jennifer all got the same information, with packet about investments you funded years ago." Meredith's professional anger was more controlled but equally intense. "My employer received an ethics complaint yesterday. HR is conducting a full investigation of my client relationship practices. Someone sent detailed information about our family's financial planning." I settled into my leather armchair, the same spot where this entire conflict had begun a week ago. Those complaints contained only factual information. Investors deserve to know about documented patterns of failure. Factual. Trevor's voice rose. You deliberately sabotaged my reputation. I shared truth, I replied evenly. If truth damages your reputation, perhaps the problem lies with your actions, not my disclosure. Meredith leaned forward aggressively. You're destroying my career over a family disagreement. Let's discuss what happened, I said, reaching for the folder I prepared for this moment. You planned to steal 40 years of my work through fraud and manipulation. I opened the file, revealing documentation of their systematic betrayal. Molly told me about the lawyers waiting upstairs at your birthday party. Mrs. Henderson saw Trevor puncture my tires after our argument. This wasn't desperation. This was premeditated theft. The color drained from both their faces as they realized the scope of my knowledge. Tuesday argument about money, I continued methodically. Wednesday morning, tire vandalism and retaliation. Thursday evening, elaborate trap involving alcohol, lawyers, and legal documents designed to transfer my business assets. Trevor's defiance crumbled. Dad, you don't understand the pressure we're under. I understand perfectly, I interrupted. You decided that stealing from your father was easier than building his success. Meredith orchestrated a sophisticated fraud scheme using her professional knowledge of elder financial manipulation. This is still family, Meredith protested weakly. You stopped being family when you planned to rob me, I replied. Every consequence you're facing now is earned through your own choices. Trevor slumped into the couch, finally understanding the completeness of his defeat. Meredith remained rigid, calculating whether any damage control was possible. The investors will never trust you again, Trevor. Your business reputation is finished, I continued. Meredith, your professional ethics investigation will likely end your career. These are natural consequences of attempted theft and fraud. What about Molly? Meredith asked. Desperately, Molly's future remained secure. Unlike her parents, she chose to protect her family instead of exploiting it. Her college education and life prospects are unaffected by your consequences. I stood, indicating the conversation was over. You declared war on me through systematic betrayal. I responded with systematic truth-telling. Justice isn't revenge, it's accountability. They left without another word, walking to their car with the defeated posture of people who'd gambled everything and lost. I watched from my porch as they drove away, probably heading home to face their destroyed lives and ruined partnership. The phone rang as their taillights disappeared. Molly's name is on the caller ID. Hi, sweetheart. Grandpa, are you okay? I heard Mom and Dad talking about some kind of investigation. Everything's fine, Molly. Justice has been served, and your future is safe. I love you, Grandpa. I love you, too. 40 years of honest work remain protected in honest hands. Wednesday morning dawned clear and calm, but my household was anything but. The emotional whirlwind of the past week had left its mark. Betrayal by blood is a wound that doesn't heal with time alone. It requires deliberate stitching with threads of justice and resolve by 9 a.m. My phone buzzed with a message from Marcus Thompson. Glenn, it's done. The chamber has circulated an internal advisory about Trevor, David and Jennifer backed it. He won't be touching another investment round in this town. It was the professional death knell I'd engineered, but reading the confirmations still hit with a strange mixture of satisfaction and somberness. Destroying your own son's reputation isn't an act of pride. It's an act of necessity. Thirst 3 required finality, legal and financial closure. The public reputational damage was irreversible, but ensuring Trevor and Meredith couldn't regroup and attempt their schemes elsewhere demanded a more formal approach. That meant legal action. I called Walter Price, my corporate attorney of 20 years. Walter knew the intricacies of my business empire, from boardroom dynamics to family share structures. Glenn, to what do I owe the early morning call? I need an airtight restraining order. Walter, against Trevor and Meredith Myers. Business access, financial accounts, the works. Walter's tone shifted instantly to professional alertness. What happened? Attempted corporate theft, fraud, and premeditated property damage. I've got documentation, witnesses too. I'll draft the paperwork today. Emergency injunction. You'll have it signed by the end of business. By noon, the necessary legal machinery had been set in motion. Walter would ensure every financial institution, business associate, and legal partner in my network understood that Trevor and Meredith Myers were persona non grata in any dealings connected to Glenn Myers Enterprises. Around 3 p.m., a text from Molly popped up. Grandpa, Mom's been crying all day. Dad won't come out of the study. What's happening? I stared at the message for a long moment. Then I typed back, the truth has consequences, sweetheart. I'm sorry you're caught in the middle, but I'm proud of you. Her reply was almost immediate. I'm okay. Just promise me you won't feel guilty. They did this to themselves. For all Trevor and Meredith's failings, they'd somehow raised a daughter with a spine of steel. The final phase of my plan wasn't about paperwork or reputation, it was about securing the future. I called my accountant and initiated the transfer of my business shares into a legally protected family trust, with Molly as the primary beneficiary. By the time Trevor and Meredith recovered from the current legal and professional fallout, they would find the business empire they sought to steal had been locked away from their reach permanently. Thursday morning, I stood in my office, the trust documents signed, sealed, and secured. The fortress had been rebuilt. Stronger than before. That afternoon, a knock echoed through my home again. This time, it was Molly. She stood at the door, a backpack slung over one shoulder. Her expression a mix of determination and quiet sadness. Can I stay for a while, Grandpa? I stepped aside, heart swelling with quiet pride. You can stay as long as you want, sweetheart. Over dinner, she spoke carefully, choosing her words with the maturity of someone far beyond her 18 years. They're blaming each other now. Dad says Mom pushed him into it. Mom says Dad's failures forced her hand. I don't think they'll stay together. Some partnerships can't survive truth, I said. She nodded, eyes downcast. They're angry. You outsmarted them. But deep down, I think they're more ashamed. They just won't admit it. I reached across the table and took her hand. Molly, you've shown more integrity and courage than your parents ever did. You have a future built on truth. That's more than they can say. That night, as I sat on my porch watching the quiet, suburban streets, I felt a peace I hadn't known in weeks. The war had been fought not with fists but with facts. Not with hatred, but with accountability. Molly's laughter drifted from inside the house, a sound I hadn't heard from her in months. It was the sound of a future free from the shadows of her parents' greed. The syndicate trap had failed. The family business stood intact. And in Molly it had found its rightful era. If you found this story compelling, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share your thoughts in the comments below. For the next gripping story, click the box on the left. Thank you for watching.